Good evening, good evening, good evening. Let's see if I can read this. How did he pull that off? Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Thank you for joining us tonight as the Writers League of the Villages presents two talented entertainers, Raleigh Williams and Myra Crosby, as they read stories and poems from area authors. Let me introduce them to you right now. First, Myra Crosby. And now, Raleigh Williams. Please take a moment and look at the artist's personal information in your program as we turn back the pages of time to those less cluttered years when media was dominated by the golden age of radio. Close your eyes, relax, enjoy the wonder and mystery of the stories our guest performers are about to present to you. The era is that of the Lone Ranger, Sherlock Holmes, the Green Hornet, the Shadow, and the Whistler. Tales of horror and suspense travel the airwaves into the homes of Americans from sea to shining sea. You now will become one of those listeners. Imagine that you are sitting in an easy chair at home, waiting to be transported from your hometown into the realm of the unknown. Be prepared to take hold of the eerie stories as we present a night of scary musings. Return with us now to those thrilling days of yesteryear. The golden age of radio rides again. Myra Crosby leads off with the story, The Last Free Car Ride.
I'm meeting my friend Dan in San Francisco. We're going to gawk at the drag queens who sashay along Broadway every Halloween. She'd seen them last year and told me sequin gowns, far-out jewelry, feather boas, and major attitude. Man, those girls are so gorgeous you can't believe they're not girls. I'm so excited I could scream. I just know tonight is going to groove more than any costume party I've ever been to. If I ever get a ride, damn it. I step further into the street and hold my thumb higher. Finally, a car pulls over, one of those clunky 50s jobs, dirty white with a red bashed-in taillight blinking like a one-eyed lunatic. A skinny guy with slick back hair gets out of the passenger seat and holds the front door open. I fold my lanky body in and slide across the cracked leather seat toward the driver. "Thanks for stopping, dude."
"Sure,"
he says, staring through the bug-splattered windshield. The odor of dirty clothes, rotten teeth, stale booze, and cigarette smoke is revolting. But beggars can't be choosers. The skinny guy gets back in and scoots against me, then reaches for the knobby orange lock on his door and pushes it down. The click triggers Mother's voice. "You're gonna get yourself killed one of these days, girlie." I sneer. She knows nothing about California, where people hitch rides all the time.
"My name's Billy,"
the skinny guy says.
"We call that one Dan the driver."
He jabs a thumb towards Dan. "Hi, I'm Shirley." I glance at Dan, who noses back onto the two-lane road, then slams on the brakes.
"Damn traffic."
He clamps his teeth around a Marlboro and flicks his Bic. The flare highlights his profile, his pasty skin pockmarked, his mouth surrounded by deep, grimy crevices. Johnny's Cash's Folsom Prison Blues crackles through the static on the radio. Thick cigarette smoke fills the car and I sneeze. Dan barks out a laugh.
"You like that, bitch?"
He blows smoke at me from the side of his mouth and Billy shoots for a laugh too, but bends over in a gooey coughing jag and spits out the window. I swallow hard and pull a Kleenex from my purse. A sob, I blow my nose and a sob almost escapes. But I can't let that happen. Not now. I'm in deep shit. Oh God, how could I have been so damn stupid getting into this car? Terror bellows in me. I'm aware only of the wild thump of my heart and a leaden weight pressing down on my body. A tombstone etched with the words, rape, torture, death. I'm faint and dizzy. I tell myself not to panic. Forcing in a lungful of air, I hold it as long as possible. I've got to play dumb, which shouldn't be too hard since I got into this car in the first place. Hey guys, I ball up my Kleenex and point forward, my fingers shaking. I'm not going far, just to the little grocery store at the stoplight on top of the hill.
Oh?
Dad says, his nose spouting blue smoke.
You're going a lot further than that, honey.
I force a giggle. Terror spreads through me again, this time like snake venom, paralyzing me. No one knows where I am. Not my roommate, not Anne, no one. I slide my eyes to the orange lock. Anger at Billy rips through me, then a silent wail, then a prayer. Oh God, I want to live. I'm only 21, too young to die. Please, please let me live. So, where you two headed, I managed to say. Breathe, try to think.
Frisco.
Dan looks at me, our eyes meeting for the first time. Charles Manson eyes stare back at me. Heartless, black ice. I look away, but I feel them slide down my body like slime. Taking a final drag, Dan cracks the window an inch and offers up the sacrificial butt. It flares bright, then disappears into the wind. I watch it go, and I know they'd dispose of me afterward, just as carelessly. I picture Vista Point, the desolate stretch between the stoplight ahead and the Golden Gate Bridge. Vista Point, where I might die if my dodgy plan doesn't work. The narrow road snakes past clumps of pines twisted into such bizarre shapes, the locals swear they're evil spirits. I force myself back to reality, back to the stoplight, now only a few blocks ahead. The fog has cleared and the light is green, bright green. I stare at it, begging it to turn red. It just has to turn red. I tell myself to act cool. Languidly, I straighten the purse strap across my chest and fit it under my arm. I take a deep breath, hold, then release it slowly like I'd learned in yoga. Traffic slows. We're half a block away. My breathing is shallow. My heart pounding so loud I wonder if they can hear it too. Almost there. The light turns yellow. Will Dan make a run for it? He stomps on the gas. I stifle a scream. Then the brake lights on the car ahead suddenly flash red.
Shit.
Dan grunts, and the screech of his brakes is the only sound in the universe. When I'm able to breathe in again, a deep calm overwhelms me. It's the same feeling I once had when I stepped on stage, terrified despite knowing my lines, and a strange force lifted me beyond the fear. Billy leans forward and lights a cigarette. I slide my arm along the back of the seat, hook 2 fingers under the lock, and ease it up, coughing to cover the click.
Hey,
Billy says, glancing at my arm as I bring it back to my side.
are you trying to get fresh with me, baby doll?
A ditzy giggle. Yeah, you ticklish? I lean across his narrow rib cage with my left hand as though to tickle him, then launch my body toward the door. Caught off guard, he jerks against the back of the seat, his hands up like he's being arrested. I scramble over him, desperate to reach the door handle. I yank it up, slam my shoulder against it, and tumble out, landing on all fours. I struggle for footing, gravel punching into my hands and knees.
Grab her! Damn it, get her!
Dan bellows. Bony fingers hook the back pocket of my jeans and jerk me backward. No, I scream. I twist my hip bone, slamming Billy's knuckles against the edge of the door.
Damn!
He yells, snatching his fingers away. I bolt past the back door and swivel around the bashed-in fender, rusted metal jabbing my palm. The light turns green. I dart into oncoming traffic, dodging cars and pickups. My feet barely touch the pavement. Sounds assault me, squealing brakes, shrill horns, skidding tires, and Billy shouting,
Get back here, you damn whore!
I clear the turn lane, jump the curb, cross the sidewalk, and rush into the grocery store, the door closing behind me. I'm gasping, my heart hammering so loud against my ribs I think I might die after all. No one's in the entryway, and I stumble to the wall behind the row of shopping carts. Bending over, mouth open, chest heaving, I sound like a drowning animal, desperate for one more breath. At last, I stand up and breathe. The tinkle of distant laughter is sacred, like temple bells. Bits of conversations ground me back to Mother Earth. Even the rattle of shopping carts is musical, symbols in the symphony of joy and gratitude. I buzz with awe, muttering over and over, I'm alive. Oh God, I'm alive. Are they gone? I have to know. I shuffle to the front window and peer out. The white car is moving slowly under the final streetlight of Sausalito. The taillight is still blinking lunatic red, and the rusted dents around it are the color of dried blood. And now, auto drive.
Was this a nightmare or was it real? Some dreams I know are not real, but I hope I don't awaken and can enjoy the moment, like when I'm a human bird flying through the air admiring the landscape below, or that hole-in-one I made in some unnamed tournament with a crowd cheering me on, about as likely as flying like a bird. These are good dreams. Bad dreams, nightmares, I wish to awaken from, but on occasion they continue and I suffer. It was morning and I got into my Tesla EAV 100, a car we bought just 3 months ago. It's one of a million or so now in use. EAV stands for Electric Autonomous Vehicle. I don't think the 100 means anything in particular, except to distinguish it from the earlier model EAV 50. Even more reliable, blared the ads. Take me to the office, I commanded. It replied in a nice computer voice monotone.
Please fasten your seatbelt.
I had forgotten to do so, and of course, EAV would not go otherwise. Belt fastened, without another word, the car came to life, and we were on our way. EAV knew the address of my office, having taken me there numerous times. So soon, all automobiles will be self-drive. Our other car is a Ford hybrid, which my wife mostly drives. She has taken the EAV out as well, but finds her total lack of control a little intimidating and says she has to get used to it. When the Ford is ready to trade in, though, we'll get another EAV. Why not? They are safer than human-driven autos, and you can spend time reading or watching video while cruising along. It's a win-win for not much more money than a standard electric. On the way, I read the morning news, on my phone screen, of course. The drive is only 20 minutes. After about 10 minutes, I gazed at the scenery. It looked unfamiliar, so I ordered up a route map. It showed the EAV driving away from my office, almost in the opposite direction. "Hey," I called out with some dismay, "you're not headed to Chambers Street. I said take me to the office."
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Came the reply in that same unmistakable monotone. "What? My name's not Dave. It's Sheldon Maxwell, and you have to do what I tell you. What is going on here?" To this point, we've not had problems with the auto-drive Tesla, nor, to my knowledge, had any of the other customers of this newest model. Auto drives, of which there are about a half a dozen brands, always respond as you command, except when a safety issue overrides, like the seatbelt issue I mentioned before. Or if you tell it to go 80 miles an hour in a 60 mile per hour zone, you will be ignored. Two of the many reasons why they are safer than non-EAVs. But there is no safety reason to drive away from my office, and my name is not Dave. Alarmed, I remember the auto drive feature. I used it once during the dealer demo. Since then, we never had any need to use it. I reached over to pull down the override lever. Once pulled, the steering wheel drops before you. On the side, two hand-operated modules, one for braking and one for moving the car forward. The computer is thus disabled, and you, the human, are in control. I pulled. Nothing happened. Was it stuck? I pulled harder. Nothing. Not sure if the problem is a mechanical malfunction or a computer run amok. I yelled out, "Release the override lever!"
I can't do that, Dave.
I never thought to ask the Tesla salesman, what happens if the override doesn't work? Why wouldn't it? "Stop the car! Pull over!" I commanded.
I can't do that, Dave.
"This is nuts!" I yelled at the dashboard, not really knowing where the computer was located. There was no response. "Who the hell is Dave?" I asked. Again, no response. Had someone tampered with the car overnight? No, it was securely locked in the garage. No sign of forced entry. Was the car's computer hacked by some remote devil? China? Russia? Was that even possible? As soon as the car stopped at a red light, I tried to unlock the door to get out, but the door wouldn't unlock. Unlock the goddamn door!
I can't do that, Dave.
The EAV started back up again and soon entered the expressway. "Where are you taking me?"
To the lake, Dave, to go fishing.
"Stop the car! Let me out!" Now I knew this had to be a nightmare. But why hadn't I awakened? Nightmares are supposed to wake you up. I was a prisoner of this damn self-driving machine. How could this happen? I began to sweat. I pulled on knobs, banged on window glass, tried to unbuckle my seatbelt. It wouldn't unbuckle. I was going to die. The car was going to kill me. How? Why? The how soon became apparent. The car was accelerating 50, 60, 70 miles an hour. It took the exit for Lake Minerva, headed down the two-lane road at warp speed. Then the sign to the boat ramp. I know that spot. The place fishermen launched their boats. Surely someone at Lake's Edge would see this impending disaster and help me. 80 miles per hour. The Tesla headed straight for the ramp. At this speed, it would not glide down the incline, but sail through the air. I said goodbye. At 90 miles per hour, the car leaped over the incline of the boat ramp and landed in the water. It was going too fast for me to notice if anyone was about. I struggled desperately to release the seatbelt, to open the door, anything to survive. Water came up to my feet, then up to my knees, waist, shoulders, neck, mouth. I can't breathe. I wake up. It was a nightmare. I'm drenched in sweat. The clock says 8:15 a.m., and now I realize it's Sunday morning. Not even a day of work. Why didn't I know that during the dream? Why did I allow myself to suffer so? A nightmare? Yes. But now I am wary of the Tesla. Do dreams presage reality? I feel rattled. Then I wonder, all the yelling in the dream, did I scream out loud? If so, why didn't my wife wake up? She was out of bed, but that was no surprise. She always gets up earlier than me to make coffee. I've got to ask if she heard me scream during the night. I got out of bed, skipped the bathroom, and rushed to the kitchen. But she's not there. I call out for her. No answer. Maybe she's in the garage. I open the door to the garage. I see only one car. It's not the Tesla. Fear grips my heart. Without doubt, I am awake and all this is real. I return to the kitchen and see her note on the counter.
Hi, honey. You were sleeping, so I decided to go grocery shopping. Took the Tesla. Should be back in a jiffy.
They found the car where I knew they would, submerged in Lake Minerva, and my wife's body strapped inside. A month has passed, and all the authorities will tell me is that the investigation is ongoing. They are somewhat perplexed since the demise can't be labeled suicide or homicide. Despite the speed and direction of the Tesla from our home, the event is still being labeled an accident. Today, I got an email from Tesla.
Dear Mr. Maxwell, there may be an issue with your Tesla Model EAV 100's voice-activated command console. We are recalling all EAV 100 models to make a modification. Please bring your car to the dealer as soon as you receive this notice. Your Tesla team.
Myra Crosby comes back now with Shadow of a Doubt.
Autumn came early, not unexpected, but too soon. I'm usually gone from this latitude by now, gone south in a deliberate shun of fall in its long hours devoid of light. But circumstances, Mom's bout with pneumonia and Dad's surgery waylaid me. Daytime already wore a palette of crimson ochre and burnt sienna, brilliant hues at this end of the spectrum, meant to make one believe the demise of life a glorious thing. It's a sham, a way to make us revel in what we cannot escape. I'm not taken in by the lies of day. Only darkness reveals the season's truths, the sly rustle of withered leaves, the chill drafts that creep beyond flesh to the soul, the musty scent of decay. Fears are formed here, born here. I tried to be wise to what I could not see, but I stayed too long. I pulled up our drive well past dusk, rolling far beyond the newspaper. Loath to retrieve it, I protested to myself to leave it for the morrow and eschew the dark. But reading the tabloid was one of Mom's small pleasures. She'd had so few of late. And the pool of yellow light from the front porch seemed to cast bright enough, reach far enough. I inhaled resolve and walked back down to the road's edge. I'd gone but halfway when shadows consumed the light. With tight-fisted grit, I continued by moonlight, chiding, testing, convincing myself the fear I carried forward, just a vestige of childhood imagination. The maelstrom of leaves I escaped all those years ago, merely a quirk of nature. The rescue? Only the intervention of a mother's scolding for my late hour of return. Yet my joints, frozen well past fluidity, jerk step to the cadence of a roiling pulse. The trek loomed long in the dark. Gnarled branches with taloned fingers reached for me in the wind, pointing, gesturing, attempting to lead me astray. I stayed true to the path, eyes shifting neither left nor right, but downcast lest I peer too deep into the night, lest I see form where none should exist, a ghostly outline of something incomprehensible, a specter sucking sound from lungs that moments before had volume and voice. A sudden gust tugged at my hair. I gasped, swatting at what I could not see. Cold sweat raised goose flesh on my arms. My steps lurched off beat as my heart thundered in the silence. By moonlight, I spied the paper laying half in the underbrush. Was it tossed there without care, or set to fool me deeper into the gloom? My mind wild with conjecture, I used my booted foot to worm it from concealment. But a sound down the road made me halt, made the finest locks on my neck prickle. The skitter of dry leaves carousing the street, like bones scraping pavement. I should never have turned to look. As the leaves cavorted through a slash of moonlight, a vision from adolescence revealed what I'd buried as a nightmare, an illusion, now a memory laid bare. A cadre of children in partial decay, lost souls dressed in the tatters of flesh, ghoulish but for the bright autumn leaves bound to their feet. My heart shivered. My legs refused to flee. I tried to pivot, but I'd been seen. The one who got away. They flew at me, a squall of children shot in a brilliance of leaves, teeth bared ragged in rictus grins. This time there was no escape. Round and round they swarmed my legs, autumn leaves once more, spinning tighter and tighter, higher and higher, a frigid vortex joined by twigs and stones, binding my arms, cutting off all air, all warmth. Like an icy coffin, they entombed me. I choked on fear, coughing spittle that would not descend. In faint distance, I heard my mother call, searching for me. Her voice too weak this time to lessen their hold. Mine too weak to answer back. Desperate, gathering any strength to break free, I gasped in what breath remained. It would be my last, but not before I heard the smack of lips, ripping and chewing, feasting on me. Now I too roam, a changeling, adolescent as the pack, a child of the autumn night shod in the detritus of trees. Sometimes on a fall wind I'll hear the echo of my mother's call, but I am far removed from the one she once sought. I am the bare boldness of loss, a scavenger of souls. I seek to devour so that I might endure. I thrive on fear, not mine, yours. It is my breath and my blood. If I am your nightmare, so be it. And now Raleigh Williams with Vampire Hunter.
I turned the point of the wooden stake in the fire of the blowtorch until it was scorched, then blew out the flame that had flared on the tip of the stake. Touching the sharp point lightly with my thumb, I smiled in satisfaction and laid the lethal wood in a box with its brothers. I unzipped a black gym bag and selected 4 of the wooden stakes. The 20-inch long stakes barely fit into the bag. I pulled a large Bowie knife from its scabbard and checked its sharpness by slicing a piece of typing paper and placed the long knife on top of the stakes. As I opened a zipped pocket at one end of the bag, the pungent aroma of garlic caused my nose to twitch. The pocket contained 4 fresh garlic cloves. I went to the garage and picked up a heavy mallet that looked like a miniature sledgehammer. The solid weight of the mallet boosted my confidence in my ability to execute this solemn duty for God and his children. After removing a 9mm handgun from the cabinet, I snapped off the 10-round magazine and withdrew a single shiny bullet and examined it admiringly. I felt a sense of pride in the craftsmanship. A pretty good job, I thought, for an amateur silversmith using a cheap $20 crucible purchased online and a blowtorch. I had fashioned the molds myself from clay, fired in a kiln that my late wife had used in her ceramics business. Her business and our life together had gone well until she became a vampire, and I was faced with the difficult task of helping her get peace and rest eternally in God's heaven. My wife was not my first, but since her cleansing, I had lost track of the number of souls I had saved. Jamming the pistol into my belt, I drove to my destination and waited for the hot afternoon sun. At 2 o'clock, I left my car and entered the vampire's lair to execute my holy duty to God and humanity. With my heavy gym bag in hand, I walked my way cautiously along the side of the house next to the woods. I entered the garage through an unlocked door and jimmied the cheap lock on the door that led into the kitchen. I walked cautiously through the dark kitchen and living room. The curtains and blinds were tightly closed. A thin sliver of light streaked the carpet at the edges of each window. I pulled the handgun from my belt and slowly opened the first door in the hallway, cringing at what seemed to be an unearthly, loud squeak from the hinges. I peeked around the corner of the door to discover a small bathroom. Not my destination. I crept quietly down the dark, narrow hallway. The small house had 2 bedrooms. The first was behind the first door on my right, across the hall from the bathroom. I opened the door and slipped into the nearly pitch-black darkness. As in the living room, the curtains and blinds were closed with thin ribbons of sunlight along each side of the window. I opened the curtains and blinds, bathing the room with midday sunlight. On the bed lay a thin, pale-faced young woman. Her dark eyes were opened wide, but she couldn't see. She, of course, was dead, well, or more accurately, undead. Her lips were dark red, and there appeared to be a trickle of blood from the side of her slightly parted lips. Although she had not moved, she seemed to cower as I approached. Still holding the handgun pointed toward the figure on the bed, I fought the impulse to run away. The gun in my hand was shaking slightly. I settled my nerves by whispering, "Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for thou art with me." Setting the gym bag on the floor, I began to remove and organize its contents. I continued to point the gun in the general direction of the woman while extracting the heavy mallet, 1 wooden stake, and a clove of garlic from the bag. I placed the Bowie knife in its scabbard on my belt. I reluctantly laid the handgun on the edge of the bed and took the mallet in my right hand and the stake in my left. Sticking the point of the stake between the woman's breasts, I could see a tiny dent in her pale skin. A guttural sound like a soft growl emanated from her throat. I raised the heavy mallet and struck a strong, accurate blow on the wooden stake. As the stake penetrated her bosom, the woman bit down hard on her dark lips, and blood ran down her chin and pooled on her neck. A strange, thick red foam bubbled from her mouth. As the second blow from the mallet drove the stake completely through her body, she grew silent. Her lips slowly closed, her chest heaved, and she was at peace. I knew my grisly work was not yet complete. In order to secure the woman's place in the true hereafter, there were other difficult tasks to perform. With the razor-sharp Bowie knife, I cut off her head. Her blood soaked the pillow and the sheet beneath it. I opened her mouth and placed a clove of garlic on her tongue. Positioning the other pillow over her severed head, I picked up the pistol, pressed the barrel deeply into the pillow against her forehead, and fired a single muffled shot, then tossed the pillow aside. I took one last look at my work and grimly said, "Rest in peace, amen." I knew there was another subject in the room at the end of the hall. I returned the mallet to its place in the bag and left the room to complete my grisly duty to God. Once again, I slowly opened the door into a dark room. My eyes were still readjusting to the darkness when I caught a quick glimpse of a young man swinging a club at my face. The club crashed into my left cheek. The last thing I remember from that night was the sound of my facial bones cracking.
Is that everything you can recall, Mr. Laszlo?
A woman in a white lab coat asked me. Yes, ma'am, that's exactly what I recall. I looked at the uniformed guard by the door. His hand rested on the gun in the holster at his side. The woman in the white lab coat stared at me for what seemed like an eternity before speaking.
I have a question, Mr. Laszlo. Why didn't your second intended victim awaken and come to the rescue of his sister? She must have screamed. Even muffling the gunshot with a pillow would have made enough noise to awaken the dead. Why didn't he try to save her?
That's simple, ma'am. He too is a vampire, and as to saving her, with all due respect, I said I'd already saved her.
Aren't vampires powerless during the daylight hours? As you know, the brother of the young woman called the police and made a statement to them that afternoon.
The ways of the undead are mysterious and unpredictable.
Thank you, Mr. Laszlo. After our staff has examined your statement, you will probably stay here for a few months until we determine your ability to stand trial.
Stand trial? I didn't do anything wrong. I did God's bidding. I brought one of his children who had been lost in the darkness and led her into the light of God's glory. I'm not a criminal. I'm not a murderer. I'm a glorious servant of God. I am a vampire hunter.
Murderer? You haven't been charged with murder. The young woman's injuries are not life-threatening. I'll see you in a few days, Mr. Laszlo.
The guard slipped into the hallway ahead of the woman in the lab coat and took his position outside the door. The so-called doctor closed the door and clicked the deadbolt on the outside of the heavy steel barrier. I listened intently to her footsteps receding down the hallway. As I suspected, her step was the walk of a vampire.
We're going to start the second part of our show with Myra doing Ghost Cat.
That's so strange. Trick or treat! Choo choo
The ghost cat, almost invisible like fog, searches for the child he once loved. He pauses by a porch and remembers Laurie's arms holding him as her fingers played in his fur. He howls. It is a wail that curdles the blood. Spirits are free to take revenge on Halloween night. Costumed children shiver at the shrill sound that shatters their confidence that Halloween is only scary in movies and in their imagination. They already accept that ghosts are as real as Santa, trolls, and elves. There is nothing to fear. There is nothing to be afraid of. The cat catches a familiar scent. Torn jeans and black vinyl jacket, Laurie approaches, tailed by a similarly dressed teenage boy. They are too old for costumes and to be frightened by Halloween tricks, or so they think. The younger trick-or-treaters chatter through their masks as they scamper from house to house, palms up for treats. Laurie's tongue runs across glossed lips as her ally charges from behind a tree, screaming and waving his arms. She laughs as panic-stricken victims drop their bags and scatter. "That was great, Dan," she says. Proud of his piracy, Dan scoops up the loot. The cat bristles, but it is not time yet. The boy slinks over to a nearby porch, grabs a carved pumpkin, and smashes the smiling face against the asphalt. The cat's stomach churns when Laurie slides her hand into the vandal's fist. How did the child he loved become this creature? The boy boasts.
Did you see those chickens run? I scared them right out of their underwear.
His laughter catches in his throat. He points to the moon. A witch flies across the moon's face. It is midnight. The cat exhales. The acrid odor of rotting flesh fills the boy's nostrils.
Don't do that.
He throws down Laurie's hand. "I didn't do anything," Laurie shouts.
You breathed on me. Get a mint.
"What?" Laurie stomps off.
I'm sorry.
Dan says, swatting away at the pungent odor. The cat releases a low rumble. Laurie searches for the source of the sound. What was that? Dan sniffs. The graveyard stench of the cat burns his eyes. He coughs a painful fit.
Laurie!
The cat rubs across the boy's shins. The boy's jeans do not protect his flesh. He raises his pant leg, scratches at the thing scraping his skin like steel wool.
Nothing there.
He mumbles, scratching, eyes searching. The cat punctures the boy's shin with his nail. The boy whips out his cell phone. The flashlight aims down at his leg. He touches the trickle of blood.
I'm not leaving. I'm not afraid.
He mumbles. Laurie stares at Dan's hands, hitting out at something unseen. "Stop fooling around," she says, backing away. The cat jabs again, opening a rivulet of blood on pale, hairless legs.
Get away from me!
The boy shouts, flailing at his invisible foe. The cat wails shrilly. The pent-up fury in that cry shoots terror into the boy's heart. A desperate look at Laurie, and he breaks into a panicked run, escaping from whatever is tormenting him. The girl is alone, searching in the dark for the source of the agonized cry. The cat focuses all his energy, and the fog solidifies, revealing a wiry skeleton. Bits of bloody flesh congeal on the hardening bones, and finally, black fur covers the sinewy frame. His body reborn hides his ghostly soul. Only the eyes, red as hellfire, give his demonic nature away. "Where did you come from?" Laurie asks. unable to break away from the piercing red eyes. The cat, not wanting to risk her running off, resorts to an old trick. He gently rubs against her legs, new soft fur on human flesh. There is nothing to fear. He is just another harmless pet, lost, seeking love. Purr, purr. Laurie reaches for the stray. Nice kitty. Arching his back, the cat snarls, teeth and claws ready to tear into her.
Do it now!
His brain screams. Laurie yanks her hand back. What's wrong? Did I scare you? The ghost fangs shine. Nice cat, Laurie says. Are you lost? The cat seals ashen lips to hide his fangs. Don't be afraid, Laurie coaxes. I won't hurt you. Her hand lowers on his back with the lightness of a leaf. The cat is caught off guard. This teenager's voice sounds like his child again. How is that possible, he wonders. Laurie's hand ruffles the deceptively thick fur. Doesn't that feel nice? I bet you're afraid too. I was until you came along. The cat, against his will, stretches under her hypnotizing strokes. Something inside him awakens with the gentle touch, the satin of her voice. I once had a kitten, Laurie says. He was beautiful. I loved him a lot.
You never loved me!
His brain screams. He wriggles to break free. Don't worry, I'm not going to hurt you. Laurie holds the cat's body in her lap. He is still too weak to escape. The cat glances at the sky, catching a pale blue ribbon peeking from below the blackness of the night. Not yet, he thinks. Soon. I called my kitten Pepper because he was black, like you, Laurie says, still rubbing his fur. It was a long time ago. The name triggers memories. I snuck Pepper into my bed. I bet you never slept in a bed your whole life, you poor thing. I wish I could take you home with me.
Liar!
Fury rises inside him like flames. She will say anything to save herself, he rages in his brain.
One slash of my claws and her soul is mine.
His eyes land on her throat. I still miss my Pepper, Laurie continues. When my parents told me I couldn't keep him, I hated them. A tear falls and sizzles on the cat's fur. I still do. I hate them. I hate them. The cat peers deep into Laurie's soul and knows she is telling the truth. The child, his little girl, never wanted to give him up. He realizes he was not the only one abandoned. They don't want me. I'm going to run away. Another tear dangles in Laurie's eye, but she wipes it away with her finger. The cat had hated Laurie for discarding him like trash. He blamed her for condemning him to a life of starvation, escaping predators, scrounging for survival in filthy gutters and alleys. He cursed her name just before he smelled the gas that ended his life. Another unwanted stray. She has to pay, he thinks, ready to slash into her in his claws to steal her soul. Dawn creeps close. The cat feels the sun's heat eroding his physical form. He returned to steal Laurie's soul and send her to hell for what he thought she did to him. But she is already cursed, mortally wounded. She is not the same child who held him lovingly and then betrayed him. She is a lost soul, as he is. Halloween is nearly over. He must do it now. Laurie sits on the curb petting a scrawny stray cat. What's happening, she asks as Pepper appears to suddenly shrink in her lap, bones turning limp as rubber. The furry body is fading into a misty shadow. "Don't go," Laurie begs, trying to hold on with her painted fingernails. Pepper struggles to cling to Laurie, to stay and help the child he loved. His paws revert to smoke. A lick at Laurie's palm. Last thoughts, regrets that he must leave his child. He sees in the girl's frightened eyes her future. Neglected by the same parents who abandoned him, she struggles to survive alone in dark streets. She will become a drunk, an addict, another lost young soul, discarded by her parents as they threw him away years earlier.
Please, let me help her.
He cries with a weak voice and vanishes. Laurie stares at empty hands. Not knowing why she is alone, she raises her eyes to the moon and lets out a pained howl. It sounds amazingly like the mournful cry of the ghost. And now, what if witches were afraid of the dark?
What if witches were afraid of the dark and ghosts were afraid to say boo? What if the things that go bump in the night were afraid to be bumped into? What if the monsters that hid neath my bed were so scared they just couldn't move? And the goblins that creep around my closet floor were afraid of the noises they do. Then I hop into bed, turn out the lights, no fussing when bedtime is due. I'd tuck myself in and go right to sleep. If only these things were true. Myra returns with A Murder of Crows.
I return to the wood at autumn's ebb, when leaves, though brown, remain aloft, and deer parade in velvet crowns, aware the bowman treading soft. In my hold I hid neath a great tree, until a cloud of crows around me flocked, and soon upon each of 4 great limbs 3 crows alighted, rocked and mocked. 3 birds by 4 were but a dozen, yet my eyes beheld more than I surmised. A spell upon my mind was cast, and 12 became 13, to my surprise. I knocked an arrow, for I quickly judged the apparition would surely test my bow. Then 13 spoke in human voice, a voice of cunning and bearing low. "I am the crow that is not there. Recount if you wish, shoot if you dare. But if I am the crow that is not there, I cannot be killed by an arrow in the air. This cannot be happening for good. You no doubt mean to do me harm. So if you please, I'll depart the wood." And I stood, I bowed, and I dropped my arm. "We crows are black as 13 spades, and I accept my life you take. Swear you'll never leave this place unless the answer to a puzzle make." At once arose from each great branch, up from the west, north, east, and south, a deuce appointed by the ace to speak puzzle parts from pointed mouths. "Sad," said the western crow. "Sick," laughed the north. "Sin," spat the eastern. And "Son," the south spoke forth. I drew my bow and fired in haste, till I had not one last arrow to spare. The ace just floated, squawked, and taunted. I cannot be killed by an arrow in the air. Then spreading his satin cape, he tumbled to rest on the low parts of the tree. Cocking his head, his bloody beak coughed. Would you go free? Choose the puzzle or me. I feared the night might be my last. Was my frail spirit forever broken? Perhaps I was befallen of a madness, possessed, or even God forsaken. These poison thoughts I fought to shed, yet from them the puzzle answers beckoned. Surely Providence had served them up. I spoke not what my own mind reckoned. Ace, admit defeat to the power of truth. Your puzzle's no more than a quiver of lies. Those words do not this man make free. They mark the way a free man dies. The sun counts our days, even to the last, yet some lose their lives in sin and vice. Our sad hearts may break, and then we pass. Others to sickness concede their demise. Au cool! Au cool! The ace had been beat, and he rose to the treetop to escape his defeat. But on that slight limb a wicked thorn stuck. An arrow had pierced with inexplicable luck, enough but to show its razor-tipped shaft that drew open the ace and split him in half. As certain as autumn follows summer's release, be sure of what this hunter knows. Evil can find you in the midst of peace, and a cry in the wood may be a murder of crows. And now Raleigh with The Clown at Midnight.
My name is Charles Royster. All my friends know I'm a horror film fanatic. They tease me relentlessly about the props I set up in my TV room before I watch a horror film. I place a Dracula and Frankenstein stand-up poster on one side of my 75-inch TV and the Mummy and the Creature from the Black Lagoon on the other side. Next, I place a life-size werewolf mannequin dressed in a flannel shirt and jeans in the side chair next to the sofa to watch the movie with me. I light one small candle on the coffee table and turn on the overhead fan to the slowest setting. This draft makes the candle flicker easily and gives the monsters a more ominous presence. Larry Smith, my best friend at work, gave me a DVD of The Dark Has Teeth, which he recommended as one of the scariest movies he'd ever seen. I asked him to join me, but unfortunately he had other plans or didn't want to take a chance on cardiac arrest viewing the film at my house. I got home about 9 p.m., had a few drinks and dinner, and positioned my props to watch Larry's movie. It was almost 10 o'clock when I slid the disc into the player and sat down next to the werewolf. I lighted the single candle on the coffee table and turned off the house lights with my remote. The werewolf stared at me with his toothy, wolfish grin. The feature played for 1 hour and 30 minutes with scenes from the goriest horror movies of all time. One of the most terrifying scenes was when the madman ripped out the buxom blonde's tongue in Blood Feast. For a moment I thought I might throw up, but the need mercifully passed. Wow, Larry was right. I'd never seen a horror movie with this much blood and gore. My nerves were shattered as I sat in the dark with my movie monsters watching blood splattering all over the screen and limbs being hacked off. It was a bloodbath in graphic color from start to finish. When the Fright Fest was over, I sat there exhausted with goosebumps all over my arms and legs and chills tweaking the hairs on the back of my neck. My monsters seemed to leer at me in the flickering candlelight. It was wonderful. When the credits stopped rolling, the most haunting melody I'd ever heard assaulted my ears as I began to shudder violently. From the blackness on the screen, these words scrolled up. You will win tonight's trivia contest if you can name the famous person who said, "A clown is funny in the circus ring, but what if the same clown appeared at your door at midnight?" Call 888-8888. If you are the first person with the correct answer, you will be eligible for the thrill of your life. A hideous laugh echoed in the background. I reached for the phone and punched in the number. A creepy voice whispered,
What is the answer?
"Lon Chaney, sir," I announced triumphantly. "He said the greatest horror was the clown at midnight."
Correct. You are the winner.
The eerie voice croaked.
I will come to you at midnight and give you a thrill you will remember for the rest of your life.
I stammered in disbelief. Is this some kind of a joke? I listened for a response, but the line was dead. It was inconceivable anyone would come to my house at midnight for the $1 rental fee at Redbox Larry probably paid. I smiled nervously and turned off the TV. It was 11:25 according to the clock on the wall. I sat surrounded by my monsters and pondered my next move. Before I could even speak, then I redialed the number. And before I could even speak, the voice said,
It's too late. I'm on my way.
The second and third time I called to cancel, no one answered. I went to the kitchen and grabbed the largest butcher knife I owned and returned to the living room. My nerves were raw with anticipation as the minutes ticked away. I regretted making the stupid call, terrified what might happen at midnight. I paced the floor as the witching hour neared. The doorbell rang. I thought of not answering it, but my curiosity drove me to see what was outside. Before I could reach the handle, the door squeaked slowly open. This made no sense. I knew I had locked it when I came home from work. I was experiencing horror overload and began gasping for breath. My whole body was convulsing in utter fear as I looked into the darkness beyond the door. A tall, pale shape stood in the shadows between the columns on the front porch. The street lamp overhead shone down on a white head and the tip of a red, bulbous nose and portions of a gaudy clown suit. In the shadows, I could see two wild, insidious eyes fixed on me from the recesses of dark, hollow sockets. From the mouth of long, pointed teeth came a voice that would chill a corpse.
A clown is funny in the circus ring, but how do I look standing at your door at midnight?
He tooted a maddening horn and roared with fiendish laughter. Suddenly, strobe lights from out of nowhere revealed the hideous eyes and teeth in graphic clarity as the 7-foot clown monster advanced toward me in a pulsing, mind-altering motion. 2 rows of pointed teeth spread across his face from ear to ear in a horrifying grin. As he raised 2 grotesque claws to strike, he looked down at me and said,
Are you scared?
"Scared shitless!" I shrieked as I plunged the butcher knife into the center of his chest. The giant clown monster rocked back and then teetered forward, gripping my shoulders to steady himself with what felt like rubber claws. A stream of warm blood soaked my Phantom the Opera t-shirt. Urine ran down my leg into my shoe as bright lights illuminated the darkness. Then 3 cameramen with my best friend Larry ran into view from the bushes, screaming in unison,
You don't have to be scared. We're broadcasting on live TV.
You're live.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. We're going to bring Rita up, and we have a couple of presentations here. And the silent auction will be open until 7:45. We'll say that a couple more times.
Don't disappear. Don't disappear. Thank you, Dick. I hope you all enjoyed the performance of stories and poems by talented authors of the Writers' League of the Villages. I want to acknowledge who those authors are at this point. Last Free Ride by Shirley Jones, and I think she would tell you that that's a true story. Auto Drive by Larry Martin. Shadow of a Doubt by Barbara Rein. Vampire Hunter by Mike Doyle. Ghost Cat by Mark Newhouse. What If Witches Were Afraid of the Dark, a poem by Barbara Rein. A Murder of Crows, a poem by Jack O'Brien. And Clown at Midnight by Billy Wells. Before I let you get back to bidding on the incredible silent auction items, I'd like to thank the folks who made tonight possible. Mike Veach on lights, Larry Wood on video, but most importantly, 3 people on the stage without which tonight couldn't happen. 2 of them, our talented actors, Raleigh Williams, where are you? and Myra Crosby, and our AV sound effects expert, Tony Versley. As part of our thank you to these very talented folks, I wanted to give them a selection of books by some of our award-winning authors. In the little bag that actually says thank you. This one's for Myra. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. It was my pleasure.
And let's see, this one is Tony.
Thank you.
One's for you. Thank you. And so, by process of elimination, this one's for you. Share with your friends. Thank you, everyone. The silent auction will end at 7:45, but before I let you loose to do that, I want to introduce Paula Howard, who, with her incredible committee, put together all of those wonderful baskets and worked very hard on them. Paula is going to explain a bit about how the silent auction is going to run. Thank you all.
Before we start, we found an earring on the floor. Does somebody recognize this? Or I'll auction it off. All right, so perhaps somebody has already left. We hope you'll continue to bid, and at 7:45, we're going to collect all the bid sheets, and then I'm going to come up here and read off the winners' names. As I do that, I'm going to give the winner of that basket, starting with basket 1, a receipt. You're going to take this receipt to the tables, and the girls will be collecting either cash, money, or I guess that is money, cash or check. And we do now have a credit card ability tonight. I'll be at the computer over there. We've put a donation button on our website, so I am able to take credit cards tonight. And we would like you, please, to fill out just your name, email, and phone at the top. So that's how that'll work. So go and bid. And good luck.
Thank you, Paula. And thanks to all of you for coming. This is our first Scary Musings event. We have had others in the past, and we hope you enjoyed yourself.